A good parent was one who rolls up their sleeves and punishes their kid until they stop fighting back. These beliefs that have just been handed down and gone unchecked, that kids not only need to suffer, but deserve to. Like, you should be afraid of what will happen if you do it again. Like, we've got all this up there for us. But that makes kids feel like there's a lovable version of me that is well behaved, that can cooperate, that can do what is expected of me. And there's a version of me that's bad, that like doesn't deserve love. So we don't need drastic changes to your parenting. You really don't. There's a couple of like crucial things that make a huge difference.
It's like 50-50 whether we're like, what are you doing? Versus like, I'm so interested in what you're doing.
Our ability to be calm has everything to do.
You're listening to Be Well by Kelly LeVeque.
Maggie Nick, a trauma therapist, the new author of this amazing book, Good Kids, and the group leader of Good Girl Rehab membership in Camp Lovable. It has been a pleasure to follow along with you, and even more of a pleasure to read a book that feels like it's about me. So thank you for writing it.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. And I'm so glad it's making you feel seen. That's the goal.
Yeah. So can we talk a little bit about your work? It's been referred to as you putting psychology into an accessible language that feels like a warm hug. It seems like your work came from your own childhood. Can you talk a little bit about your journey into this work?
Absolutely. So I was the good kid, and I was like on one end of the spectrum, like raging good kid. I really did wear it like a gold star, that I was the old soul, the delight to have in class. Like, I don't think I ever had a report card that didn't call me the delight to have in class. And I really never needed to be disciplined. Like, I kind of figured out a way to always be good. And I really thought I was fine. Like, it wasn't until about 25, I finally get into therapy to try to work on some hard family stuff. And I'm like, whoa. And I remember my therapist telling me that I was the most viciously self-critical client she'd ever encountered. I had another therapist tell me that later. We've come a really long way. I'm really proud of that, actually, because I really do love, like, I feel lovable as hell. And I actually really love myself, and I'm so kind now. But we really started from a dark spot. But I had eating stuff, like eating disorder stuff, and vicious self-critical stuff. That was sort of the two things I could put my finger on. And I remember my therapist diagnosing me with anxiety and PTSD. And I'm like, anxiety? I don't have anxiety. But then I'm like, oh, the anxiety is the not, always bracing for people to be disappointed in me, and always worrying somebody was mad at me, right? Like, I was actually anxious. And as I started pulling these threads for myself I just was so worried I was going to mess up my kids. Honestly, I never imagined all of this. When I was in grad school, became an accidental expert in everything that was afflicting me, basically. And, every road kind of kept leading back to this ache, this like crushing core belief that there was something wrong with me deep down. And then when I started seeing clients, I was seeing it reflected in them. I mean, those are the words that make people cry every time, 100% of the time. When I would say, there's nothing wrong with you, the toughest client to crack would just melt into a puddle. I'm like, what is this? And then eventually I made a video calling it Good Kid Trauma, and it just exploded. And here we are 6 years later.
What does it mean to be like a good kid? Like, what's this, like, how would you define that?
The good kid is the one who is easy, so mature, so responsible, an old soul, really doesn't ever cause trouble, and so disciplined that they basically discipline themselves, right? It's actually the child I worry about the most as a therapist. Like, when parents will call, they've got one kid who's acting out, being really disrespectful and defiant. That child needs and deserves support. But I'm like, when something hard has happened, and that's why they're calling, I'm like, well, is there a child in the home that seems just fine? Like, you would never even know that this hard thing has happened to your family. That's the kid I need to see first, because that child has internalized this pressure sometimes because they're held to different expectations, right? We count on them and we need them to be the one that we can count on to make our life easier and to help without even being asked and all of that. But they really are bottling and suppressing everything. They, like the bad kids who are not bad, but those kids are at least releasing stress from their body. Good kids are just holding everything in, right? And just putting a smile on and so afraid to be a burden. They believe that a version of themselves that needs help is failing. Like, it's not even that they can't ask for help. They think needing help is a moral failure, you know? So we just got to check in on these kids. These kids are often not okay.
Yeah. What is it like? It's so interesting because do you feel like birth order plays a role in this? In a good kid versus, I don't want to say good kid, bad kid, but like a kid who suppresses their feelings and tries to deal with it all on their own versus the kid who just is open about like, I want this, I want it now. That's not the way I want it. I'm doing it this way. Like, is there something there?
I do think there can be. I think in a lot of families, the oldest is the good kid. And then there are a lot of families where I think there's several different kind of roads that can lead to good kids. You know, the kind of primary ones that I see are where a parent is carrying substance use and abuse or mental health challenges, especially those that present as like personality disorders. Narcissistic and borderline are the two that I see the most often. And really, we see just a profound inconsistency and unpredictability in the parent's ability to be there for the kid, right? Like either their trauma and their mental health stuff or their substance use and abuse kind of makes it creates a situation where a child can't predict whether a parent's going to be willing and able to care for them when they need it. And the child ends up having to sort of parent the parent almost. And then we have like other cases where there is a sibling who has high needs, a medical issue or mental health issue or addiction or whatever it is. And we see sometimes kids kind of move into this good kid role because they feel like they, you know, have to make life easier for the parent, and needing the parent kind of is a burden. And the parent, I mean, understandably is drowning and like barely keeping their head above water. I'm a parent. Like, it's great when my kids are well behaved. It's just a problem when they feel like they can't ever misbehave. Like they can't ever be a kid. That's when it starts to become a real issue.
When I think about brain health, I think about staying clear and sharp while building a business, parenting 3 boys, and still wanting to feel creative and present. Lately, I've been thinking about it even more because I'm juggling a lot, and I don't want to wait until there's a problem to start paying attention. But your brain health is so much bigger than your memory or your focus. It's your mood, your resilience, your ability to handle stress and still think clearly. And your brain doesn't operate in isolation. It reflects what's happening across your entire body. Things like inflammation, blood sugar regulation, nutrient status, sleep quality, and vascular health all influence how your brain performs today and over time. So if you're not measuring those systems, you're guessing. That's one of the reasons I love Function. It gives me and you real data so you can see what's actually happening inside your body and make more informed choices instead of flying blind. So own your health and start by understanding what's happening beneath the surface. Function gives you access to 160 plus lab tests each year, including advanced markers for heart health, inflammation, stress, hormones, toxins, and more for $365 a year. Learn more and join Function using my link. Visit www.functionhealth.com/BeWell by Kelly and use my gift code BeWell25 for a $25 credit towards your membership.
My new amino acid supplements come in flavorless and lemon water, and they're flying off the shelves, and here's why. I have meticulously sourced these vegan fermented essential amino acids from Japan. I am so proud of this being made the Be Well way, with maximum quality and minimum ingredients. My flavorless is simply those vegan fermented essential amino acids from Japan. Our lemon water contains minimal ingredients of only organic lemon powder, organic citric acid, and organic monk fruit. No natural flavors, no artificial flavors, no artificial sweeteners, no emulsifiers, no additives. This is simply that nutrition targeted for your goals. If you want to give my Be Well protein or aminos a try, or restock it if you're already loving it, take advantage of my gift for podcast listeners. Code podcast10 is going to get you $10 off just for being a listener. Write it down and shop with me after you listen.
Yeah. Well, so how do we parent? Because when I think about, and we can talk about my dynamic, and it's weird because I have like a mirrored dynamic in my house. So I'm one of 3 girls. I'm the oldest of 3 girls. I was raised to be a good kid and follow the rules. And I always was that kid. Like I was mother's helper when my little sisters were born. I made life easier, not harder. It felt like for the majority of the time. But I do feel like I people pleased a lot growing up. I was, I would do things for positive reinforcement, external positive reinforcement, not for internal reinforcement, like getting a good grade, doing a performance, at school, playing soccer, like whatever it was, like I was doing it for an audience, and the audience was my parents. And maybe that was to prove to them that like they were doing a good job, or maybe my life, like I kind of am like, what's the why there? Like, why was I constantly looking for that, like, good job? You're great. You're amazing. Is it like, is it the chicken and the egg? I'm like trying to drill down into that. And then also not wanting to repeat that in my family. So I have 3 little boys, 7, 5, and 2.5. A lot of my community has grown up with me. So the moms listening are like, okay, like if it's resonating with them that they're the good kid, or maybe it's resonating with them with that they were the one who knew how to have boundaries for themselves and stand up for what they needed, or just say how they felt. And so it's interesting because in my family dynamic, like I do feel like my younger sister was better at being like, I need help. I want this. I want that. Like, I don't want to do that. Like I played soccer all the way through, and I went to the college that 27 of my relatives went to, USC, because my dad took me to, Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory, and was like, not like, where do you want to go to college? Was like, he got himself a cup of coffee and was like, how are we going to get you into USC? Like it was just like, and it wasn't out of like malicious intent. It was that I had grown up wearing the sweatshirt and the cheer uniform my whole life. And so he just assumed like, that's my number one school. And I'm sure I said at times, like, that's my number one, because I think that would make my parents the happiest, like without ever being like, where would I be best at school? Like, where should I go? Like, what do I want to be when I grow up? You
were a shape-shifting chameleon, just like I was.
Oh my God.
And I was sorry.
But I don't want to do that to my kids either. And I know that my parents didn't mean to do that. Like, of course not. They want the world for me. They want me to be happy, do whatever it is that I want to do. I want that for my boys, but I already see it like taking shape in my kids, where Sebastian, my oldest, Tashin will be like, I want that toy. Like, and he'll stand his ground and he'll like get fiery, number 2. And it's just like, give me that damn toy, and Bash will be like, it's okay. You can have it. And there have been times where he's like crying, like, I never get what I want. And I'm like, wait a second. Oh no, it's happening here. How do I break the pencil?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and we are going to fall into the way that we were parented, period, the end. Like the goal, it's not possible to be parented one way and then completely break every cycle. I don't break every cycle. Like I mess up all the time. Okay. Like let's just start there. Okay. I do think that there are some pretty toxic beliefs that are running around in the cycle breaking community that are like perfectionism and other stuff. And I just call bullshit. No, ma'am. Like we all mess up. When the more stressed out I am, the more vulnerable I am to being hijacked and like say the thing I said I would never say. Like it happens to all of us. I yell at my kids sometimes. I mean, we were raised to bottle all of our feelings and feel ashamed for having them. So like, how's that going to go when you've got a child being utterly unreasonable and obnoxious and doing things you were never allowed to do? Like that's a recipe for disaster. So we're going to mess up, period. First, like we don't need to break every cycle. We do want to break the damaging cycles, right? Like so when we fall into that, we like notice it. right? Like the number of boomers that have been up in my comments over the years when I try to talk about kids having emotional needs and they're like, oh, for God's sakes, this stuff. Like you're seeing that and alarm bells are going off. Like, yes, that's right. Like you're seeing that and noticing, you're attuned to them. That's huge because most of us, and I completely agree with you, that most of our parents, including those who are personality disordered, like I feel really strongly about this, did not take delight in making us suffer. Like did not believe they weren't like planning how to mess our lives up. I really think that we've just had these misguided beliefs that were handed down generation after generation, and shame being like the organizing force around discipline, like shaming kids and these beliefs that kids needed and deserved to suffer. Like that suffering alone is the way you like teach kids a lesson. And like withdrawing and withholding love and like, you know, silent treatment and all these things, right? You should know better and what is wrong with you? And I'm not mad, I'm disappointed and I expected more from you. That's the one that I'm like, oh, sorry, everybody. But like, it's that, okay? So we need to check our expectations a little bit, right? Yeah. Like we need to see that like we were expected to be mini adults and be more, regulated, mature, all of the things than the grownups raising us, first of all. Like a lot of the expectations that were placed on us were impossible. We could never have achieved that. It's literally impossible for a child to never misbehave. So that's an insane expectation.
It's insane. So when you say all those things, because I've heard all those things, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed was like that was the favorite in my house. Like, which you're just like, that's worse. Like, be mad at me. Like, being disappointed in me, like that feels like I'm going to vomit. Like that feels like really uncomfortable. And I'm going to actually probably self-shame worse because of that. So what was it? Like, why were parents parenting us that way as kids?
I think there was a shift, and I think it was well-meaning to try to move away from physical discipline. And I think that's where we really saw the rise of these shame-laced phrases. And I think, first of all, shame works. Like we can argue with what works means, right? Works means it eradicates the behavior, but we know behavior at the surface is a very poor indicator how someone's actually doing inside, but like it works. And the number of clients that I've had, my God, who can sit on my couch and tell me with surgical precision every single time their parents said that phrase to them. Oof. Like it is like seared into our memory, like core memories in a bad way, right? Yeah. So here's the thing about shame. First of all, it's like the air we breathe. We don't even notice it. Like it's so ingrained and so everywhere that we're like the fish swimming in the water who isn't aware that there's water. It's everywhere. Yeah. And I shame my kids. Like I have parents that are like, your work's fascinating, but I don't shame my kids. And I'm like, girl, I shame my kids. There are times that I have a face that says I'm disappointed because I'm, at my limit and I'm about to blow and I'm doing the best I can to not scream at them and like, So it's less like, it's really more about how we make the child feel in moments of struggle. Like if I could point to one thing, our parents, I think, felt like a good parent was one who rolls up their sleeves and punishes their kid until they stop fighting back. And I think a lot of us kind of I certainly did. I had parts of me that were saying that, shut it down, like just don't let them get away with it, right? And like the problem is shame sits at the level of our identity. Shame is poison and there's no safe dose of poison. So like when we say things like, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. A lot of people in my field even will stand 10 toes down in defense of that phrase still at this point in time in history, believing that we need to teach kids how to deal with disappointment. I stand 10 toes down against that phrase because I've had so many children sit on my couch, good kids and the problem kids, and tell me I hate myself when I disappoint my parents and let them down. I'm a disappointment. Like they don't just hear, don't do that. They hear there's something wrong with the version of me that does that. right? And it's like our parents, again, these beliefs that have just been handed down and gone unchecked, that kids not only need to suffer, but deserve to. Like, you should be afraid of what will happen if you do it again. Like, we've got all this up there for us. But that makes kids feel like there's a lovable version of me that is well behaved, that can cooperate, that can do what I'm expected of me. And there's a version of me that's bad, that like doesn't deserve love. Like, shame is one of the 5 basic human emotions, and it is the most profound dysregulator of our nervous system. And so it's more like these moments where we're making kids feel ashamed of themselves for losing control or having a messy human moment. Like, it's so hard because we weren't allowed to have those either. And sometimes like our parts will want to shut them down to protect them from what would have happened to us as kids. And it really, like, the urge to shut it down is coming from such a loving place in us. We're just like, no, it's not safe to do that. I'm going to protect you, right? From what my parent would have done to me. And then we end up accidentally perpetuating that cycle. So in the book, I talk through 5 adjustments. And I didn't know exactly how this was going to emerge. I knew I needed like principles or pillars, and I kind of waited, and then all of a sudden there it was. So we don't need drastic changes to your parenting. You really don't. There's a couple of like crucial things that make a huge difference. I have 5. I'll talk through the first 2 or the 3 that are jumping to mind. So the first one is curious, not critical. We want to just like automatically like scold them and move into that kind of critical, judgmental, what is wrong with you? You know better than this, right? I know, right? I feel it too in my body.
I'm thinking about my middle son, who literally lives in a dream world. Like, Toshin is like, he's my fiery one. Like I said, he will just be like, I want that. It's like the reels of like the first child's already like, I'm so sorry. And the middle one's like, you're going to have to bleeping kill me. Like, you know, that reel. I showed it to my sister Chrissy sent it to me. And then like the third child is like flipping the bird in the back. It's like in the back of a convertible, just like throwing the middle finger up on both sides. And my youngest sister Chrissy sent it to me. And I'm like, yep, I'm like already apologizing. Like, I'm already apologizing. But my middle son lives in this little dream world. And he is the one who, you know, it'll be like a Duplo, like some type of like crane with like the rope that connects to the other Duplo. And he's just got the scissors out and cuts it, you know, and everyone's like, what are you doing? You know, and he's like, oh yeah, well, I'm creating this like really cool crane that's going to come off this other Lego tower that I built. But like, if I'm curious, you're like, cool idea, very creative. But like, it's like 50-50 whether we're like, what are you doing? Versus like, I'm so interested in what you're doing.
Well, and we're not always going to be able to bring the curious, right? Like, our stress level and where, like, our ability to be calm has everything to do. Like, if 10 is where our body forces a release, right? We move into dysregulation where our nervous system is suiting up and thinks our life is in danger. And that's important because then we make like decisions as if our life is in danger, and we have to be like, that's not a bear, that's my child, right? But like, when the same thing, my kid does something ridiculous or breaks something, if my stress level's at an 8, I'm about to blow, right? I'm like, everybody run for cover, here it comes. If that same thing happens when I'm a 3, I have the bandwidth, I have the capacity to be calm and tolerate the frustration and the overwhelm of this moment. Right? So much of this is us learning how to stop bottling everything and let ourselves be freaking frustrated, because parenting is frustrating as hell. And like, if we're pretending it's not, like, then we're going to live with like this much bandwidth and we're going to be constantly, right, blowing on our kids. So there are times that I don't respond with curiosity all the time. It's my goal. And if I don't, and if I come in with critical, like, I have an ongoing circle back with my daughter. She gave me permission to say this because she's 11 and I have to check on these things. But like, about probably 5 years ago, we were on the way to a school event and I said something. I was like, just kind of, I was like juggling a lot of balls, and I saw her face in the rearview mirror and I was like, uh-oh. And so when we got there, I said, hey, can we have a quick chat? I want you to tell me, it's safe to tell me, am I making you feel sometimes like nothing you ever do is good enough for me? And she like head dropped, and I'm like, I said, babe, that is how I have felt my whole childhood, my whole life. I am so sorry that I'm turning around and doing that to you. Like, all I can do is own it and, make it very clear that this matters to me, that I care. I know.
I have full body chills.
I know. Well, and it's just all I can do, right? Is see the impact and tell her that it matters and I'm going to figure this out. And I did a bunch of freaking therapy on that. And like, we've had probably 3 more since then. But it's like, when I'm doing that, I've got to be like, what's going on for me? Why am I holding her to such a high standard? Why am I unwilling to give her any grace? Like, it's probably a reflection of how I was made to feel and things that I need to resolve and heal within myself. Like, I'm not a bad mom. I'm just someone who was made to feel that way. And until I resolve that, I'm going to, in moments of stress and overwhelm, be really vulnerable to that stuff. So when we mess up, and we will all the time, I mess up all the time, you guys. I wish you could see inside my house. Like, I try my hardest, and I'm still a person who learned how to feel my feelings as a very grown adult, right? And I'm still learning how to regulate through moments of overwhelm. And then my kids will go through a new developmental leap, and it's like a new way of testing boundaries. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I'm drowning there for a bit. And then I finally get onto a life raft. I'm like, okay, we mapped the terrain. We know what it's going to look like. And I finally, 6 weeks later, I've finally figured out how to stay calmish and not get triggered. But they're going to find our soft, squishy places where we get tender, and they're going to, they're going to set us off. It's going to be very hard to love the parts of our kids that feel unlovable within us. And we're going to want to protect them because those parts of us feel like they're not safe to be exposed, right? There's nothing wrong with us. This is how generational trauma works. So we've just got to show up and say we're sorry, and commit to trying to do better.
When your mitochondria work better, everything works better. And as I get older, I'm really focused on supporting my energy and longevity from the inside out. And that's why I've been loving the MitoPure gummies from Timeline. They are longevity gummies designed to support cellular energy so you feel stronger and more vibrant as you age. They're powered by MitoPure, the only clinically proven form of urolithin A shown in human studies to help renew mitochondrial function, a key driver of healthy aging. For me, these gummies have become a true foundation in my supplement routine. I keep them next to my coffee, and I take 2 every morning. It's one of the few daily habits I actually stick to because it's delicious, simple, and doable. But it's working at a much deeper level. It's supporting my muscles, my energy, and how I'm going to feel 10, 20, and even 30 years from now. If longevity feels overwhelming, this is a great place to start. It can start with that one simple daily habit that supports your cells. And you can support your cells and how you age with MitoPure gummies from Timeline. Visit timeline.com/Kelly and save up to 39% off your MitoPure gummies. That's timeline.com/Kelly.
Our kids are the first generation growing up surrounded by ultra-processed foods, and we're only beginning to understand what that might mean long term. That's a big reason I was drawn to Hiya. They created a real solution in a market where a lot of children's vitamins look more like candy than nutrition. Some kids' vitamins today have up to 7 grams of sugar per serving, plus artificial dyes and additives. Hiya took the opposite approach. 0 sugar, 0 gummy junk. Just clean, thoughtfully sourced nutrients. I've tasted them myself, so I know they actually taste great. And my boys love them, especially decorating the reusable bottle with stickers that come with your first order. Hiya worked with pediatrician and nutrition scientists to formulate their chewable vitamin with 12 organic fruits and vegetables, plus 15 essential vitamins and minerals. Things like vitamin D, B12, C, zinc, and folate. They're non-GMO, vegan, dairy-free, allergy-friendly, and every batch is third-party tested for heavy metals and contaminants, which is the kind of transparency I really appreciate as a parent. And here's something every parent needs to hear. If getting your kids to eat vegetables feels like a daily battle, Hiya's Kids Daily Greens and Superfoods is a total game changer. It's basically chocolate milk stuffed with veggies, a greens powder with 55 plus whole food ingredients. Just mix 1 scoop with milk or a milk alternative and watch them happily drink something that's secretly fueling their growing bodies. We've worked out a special deal with Hiya for their best-selling children's vitamin. Receive 50% off your first order when you go to hiyahealth.com/Kelly. This deal isn't available on their regular their website. So go to hiyahealth.com/KELLY and get your kids the full body nourishment they need to grow into healthy adults.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like, I love repair. I love owning it. I love like coming forward. I will say nothing makes me feel better as a parent than using that tool, because it feels worse to just be like, oh, I guess I'll just try harder in my head. But to like watch your child watch you own it kind of feels like a superpower, because they also are like, my mom is human and not perfect. And that like, yeah. And you are going to be at an 8 some days, and you're going to blow to a 10, and you're going to be like, who is that person? That is just like not who I want to be. And I think one line, and now I feel bad. I don't know who to credit this to. I've had like therapists on this podcast multiple times. But someone said like, nothing you do will ever make me love you more or less. And like that line, whenever, especially Sebastian, who is my like oldest, people pleasing, repeating everything that was me, like trying to be the best kid, the best grandkid, the best kid in school. Like he is, I heard from a teacher, actually, he's the one who needs to hear that from me the most. Like absolutely the most. But I had a teacher at their school. I was chatting with one of them, and it was his teacher from when he was really little in TK. And she said, and I think it was something like good kids like Sebastian, like, cause he got put in a class with a lot of disruptive boys, and the teacher's like a little bit having a hard time with it. So that her personality isn't that great and her mood isn't that great. And it's like giving him a little bit of performance anxiety around like reading out loud in first grade and like, stuff like that, where you're like, she just said like, this is the bad part about being a good kid. It's like a lot of times you're just like, they know that they can put him in that really difficult class of boys because he's just going to like take one for the team, and he's going to be the good kid in there, so that like, nobody, I don't know, like to like make it even or make it easy. And like, that's so much pressure for a 7-year-old that he can't have a meltdown or freak out or like act zany or like be weird or like do whatever the little kids are doing.
Be a kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know.
Okay. So of your pillars, I'm getting curious before being critical. I will say for that one, like on the chances or the times when I do that with Tashin specifically, I can't help but laugh because he gives me like the most outrageous stories of like what his imagination is creating by like pouring the almond milk into the cup and watching the cereal overflow. Like, oh, they're life rafts. They're life rafts, like going down the like waterfall. And you're just like, shit, okay, they're life rafts.
Well, that doesn't mean you can't have boundaries. You can say, whoa, no, we're not doing that. And like shut it down and own it. He needs you to own the hell out of that now and not be wishy-washy, which is a whole other thing. We've got to learn how to do that. But you can shut stuff down. You don't have to. And like, honestly, it makes kids feel safer when there are guardrails, right? It makes them feel a little bit unsteady when we're kind of afraid to say no. Like we need to be able to say no and own the hell out of our no. But we need to love them through whatever comes next, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can say no problem. Like I have 3 boys in my house. The energy is like jacked up around here and people's body parts are going to get hurt if I don't have boundaries. But it is like, it's the not shaming. Like when it's an accidental spill or it's like like, it's just like, what's the point of that? Like, there's no reason for that. Okay. Curious over critical.
And it's really just noticing, because you're going to shift into critical. It's not if, it's when. It's just being like, ooh, I'm going into critical. Let's shift back into curious. Kids feel that. And like, I can tell you behind closed doors what they tell me. As soon as a parent starts working and shifting into critical, they're like, wow, it just feels like my mom wanted to hear me out, or my mom was so patient, or like, I know immediately, like before the parent even tells me, I can see it in the kid. Like curious is like magic for children, and really in all relationships, right? When we assume that there's a reason that they thought they were making a good choice, right? When we assume that this makes sense and they make sense. And that doesn't mean there isn't consequences. It doesn't mean there isn't a fallout and a mess we have to clean up, right? We have to face the impact of our actions. But like, let's just try to lead with curiosity as much as possible. The next one is check your expectations. And I mean, to your point, like a good kid's worst day is like typically the problem child / bad kid's best day, right? And like, I love how beautifully you highlighted that. I know the teachers out there, like I couldn't do your job. I don't think I would be able to stay calm. So kudos. I see you. And of course you need those kids who don't cause trouble. You need them and you rely on them to kind of keep order. I get it, but we've got to be checking in. We've got to be noticing when we're expecting, I mean, almost like expecting that good kid to be at a grown-up level of maturity. Like to your point, that puts it just crushing pressure on that child. And they really do beat themselves up when they can't meet a grown-up's expectations, especially one that they trust and like really care about. If we come in with like the energy of, I expected more from you, like we've just got to recognize. And I think you can just say, you know, I sometimes you're my helper and I put too much on you. That was on me. Like a grown-up owning that and just kind of checking, that's really important.
That's great.
Right. And I think so many of us, like the number of times my own therapist has checked me with expectations with my kids. She's been like, ooh, we're expecting a little much from a 6-year-old, or we're expecting a little much. And I'm like, really? Because that's what was expected of me. And so it's so hard to like, oh, that's too much. Like, good to know. You know, we've kind of got to do that work too and have someone there to help us. There's 5 total. The last one I'll say is stand by them. This one might be the most important. They're all important. So remember when we would fall out of our parents' good favor and it felt like we needed to like be extra nice or extra helpful and like apologize a lot from like a really desperate place of not really deserving to be, to be forgiven. Like that's really messed up. Like it has to do with like, children don't need fewer boundaries. They need better boundaries. Okay. They don't need us to find a way to never say no. No. Not throwing shade at anybody, but like that is wild to me. No. They need a confident, loving leader who doesn't punish them inside the relationship. Right? Like the way our parents felt like, I've seen who you really are, and I better never see this side of you again. It's kind of that stuff that really is crushing for a child.
So what does better boundaries look like, and how, because no one wants to do that. No one wants to like create or like notice a part of a person and reject a part of the person, because that feels like rejecting the whole person. Like you're like, if this is actually a side of me, you're telling me that side of me is not lovable, then all of me is not lovable. Like how do we how do we have better boundaries, but also, it's almost like we have to earn the love back. Like you're so disappointing. And like, then you're like, oh, and I'm like extra good, extra helpful. Like I remember being a kid and knowing that, I don't know. Like, I think I would have to do like some really deep therapy to be like, what is the exact reason why I used to do this? But like my mom would leave me with my 2 younger sisters and I would be like, cleanup crew, you guys, we have to do cleanup crew. And they would be like, cleanup crew. And my sister would be like, forget you. Like, we don't want to do cleanup crew, and I'm like, we're doing cleanup crew. And like, I would literally clean the entire house. Like all the toys were put away, spray down the counters, like everything's in perfect order. I basically like wouldn't let them play. I sound like a horrible big sister. I wouldn't let them like make a huge mess. And I wanted it to be perfect when my mom got home so that I could be like, yay, look what we did. Like what is that?
Yeah. I mean, I think good kids are made to feel like we need to be impressive, right? There's a level of like, look how impressive I am. Look how impressive my accomplishments are. Look how impressive, like, look how much I'm carrying. And other people would be buckling under this pressure, but like, I'm not even breaking a sweat. I think it's also like, as the oldest, like you were probably relied upon, like probably starting when the second child came. Like I did this with my oldest, you kind of just need them to be your helper. And that's like a way to bond with the baby or whatever, but it kind of never stops, And as we have future or subsequent kids, it's just, I've been there. It's exhausting trying to have a baby and another kid. And we've just got to be noticing, right, when we are making our kids feel like they need to take care of us and watch our mood and not set us off. I think the apologizing thing is really fascinating when you think about how when we were kids, and this, again, I don't blame our parents. Like this is the stuff that's been handed down. I don't think they understood the way this was going to play out, but they would yell and then expect us to apologize for setting them off.
Yeah.
Right? And like, that's not what you and I do, right? Like, we're like, I shouldn't have yelled. So there's like a fundamental shift, I think, that we're all kind of recognizing on some level as we go to therapy, as we start to heal ourselves. We're like, hang on a second, the person who yelled needs to own that they yelled, right? But a lot of our work was just, being attuned to our parents, making sure they were okay, safe, comfortable, cared for, instead of being the person who was cared for. Like, that's kind of how it goes with the good kid. It's like praising them for being so independent that they never need help, But the stand by them thing, it really would have changed my entire life if just one time one of my parents had said, I know you. I know that this thing that happened, the lying, the breaking the thing, the mean words, whatever it is, the mistake, I know that this isn't who you really are. Right? Separating the child from the thing, huge, because that puts us into guilt territory, which is uncomfortable but adaptive, versus shame, which is you're bad, right? This is a bad thing versus you're bad. So I know you. I know that this is not who you really are. You're going to have to face the consequences of your actions, and you're going to have to show up and make this right. But we're going to do it together. I still love you. It's okay that this happened. Right? You and I are good. Like, I'm here, I'm not going anywhere, and I will stand next to you while you face the consequences of your actions. Like, it's not taking the love away. It's not taking the relationship away and kind of good standing and then fell out of good standing and then good standing. Like, that's the thing. If I could point to one thing that really messes us up. And again, our parents didn't know any other way. There was nobody out there talking about the way this was going to impact us long term. There are a lot of parents that are still really struggling with owning their impact, because they didn't mean for it to happen. And that's a whole other thing. But I do really have a lot of grace for our parents and our grandparents. Like, there's just really no other way this could have gone. Nobody really knew.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there was a lot of discipline that if something, you're right, if we did something wrong or it wasn't how it was supposed to be, or I don't want to say the perfect way, because I don't think my parents were ever expecting perfect. My dad was C's for degrees, baby. He was not, they wasn't you don't get straight A's. It was never like that. He always said, I want you to try your best, which was almost worse than being get perfect grades, because you're okay, I'm trying, what is my best? And my best is never good enough. You're just working really hard towards that. But yeah, punishment was more that was bad, or you're bad, and go be grounded, go to your room, take a minute to think about what you've done. And you are removed, and there's shame, and you're feeling alone. And then there's this real divide between being able to actually admit bad things that you've done, or when you're the person I want to turn to because this doesn't feel right or feel good, I don't feel like I can turn to. And, even the best of kids are going to go through really tough times. And I think there were times when I wish I could have turned to my parents, and these weren't life altering things, but in those moments when you're I'm in 8th grade, I'm a sophomore in high school, I'm a freshman in college, and the person you're supposed to be able to say I want to tell you everything, and I need your help. But the messaging was I'm your mom, not your friend. I'm going to have boundaries for, I'm going to have rules for you, and you're going to have to live up to these rules. Well, then it's you're not there is no one to stand by you. And then you lean on your friends. And it's like, it's hard because, right, you look at books like The Indoctrination Nation or whatever it is, where you're like, well, if you're the parent that lets your kids have alcohol, then they're going to be alcoholics when they grow up. So you have to have like where's the messy middle of like, how do I show up for my kid, especially when they're having the hardest time, so that they know they can come to me when they're having those hard times?
Oh my gosh. Yes. So can I tell a quick story?
Yes, please.
This is one of those stories that like I tell it in the book, but one of my best friends, Logan, is a therapist too. We have a podcast coming one day when we finally get it together. But I had to come apart with her one time, and she's a trauma therapist too. So like, she's really good at listening, and called her one day when I was just having a messy come apart, which I now can have. I couldn't cry for the longest time. But I can actually like fall apart completely now. And so in the middle of that, I don't even know what it was, to be honest with you. But you know, those things you're like, I'm never going to tell anybody this. I'm taking this one to the grave because we think nobody can love me through this, right? Blurt one of those out. And then I'm like, oh, wow. I did not think I would ever say those words out loud. And look, I just said them. And she goes, what else do you think I won't love you through so I can show you that I will? Like, nobody's ever loved me like that, but that's what I strive with my kids. That's the goal. Can you love me even like this? And when my kids are driving me crazy,
yeah,
I say, they're asking you, can you love me even like this? Like, they need a leader. They need a no. They need boundaries. They need consequences, but I need to answer the question, yes, I can love you even when you're like this. That's the answer. Because it doesn't yes, we don't want to be our kid's friend. We need to be the leader, right? We cannot be on their level. That can be extremely damaging. But like, this part, be like, I will love you even when you're at your worst, even when you're lazy, even when you can't pull it together, even when you messed up so bad. I will love you and I will stand by you. Like, that is so powerful. That's the goal for me.
It's such a beautiful thing that Logan gave you, just to be held in your deepest, darkest thoughts and experiences, and to know that that it's okay. And I will say, and we can get to the part in your book where you talk about parents. But I think my parents did a phenomenal job. I think they've done a really amazing job. I know that they tried their hardest. I know they did parenting classes and mommy and me, and were sideline warriors. And, I remember literally being picked up for school, every day. I think my mom was listening to Dr. Laura in the car, she's trying to learn
so hard.
No one has ever loved us more. I think that there was a period in time when having 3 little girls and us going off to high school and then eventually to college, there was a significant amount of fear that set in for our safety, whether that be our safety of boys taking advantage of us, our safety with substance, our safety with driving. She was the mom who literally, our curfew was the year we were, 9 o'clock when you were a freshman, 10 o'clock when you were a sophomore, 11 o'clock when you were a junior, midnight when you were a senior. And it was she was awake when I got home every time, how was it? She just full on. And so I don't ever want to discredit my parents, my mom or my dad. My mom definitely was the majority of the disciplinarian because my dad was working a lot. But, I think that's the hard part when you start to talk about stuff like this, because you're like, gosh, I'm beyond grateful for the time and energy and love and support. I do wish at a certain point when that got scary for her and when I was going off, that she didn't become so black and white in a time where I needed a little more gray and a little bit more of I need to tell you this. I want to tell you this, whether you like the decision I made or not. I need to know that you love me no matter what, kind of. But I didn't even feel for some of the things I was comfortable enough to broach the subject. So how do we do that in that container in a loving way?
Yeah. I mean, I think so much of this is about healing ourselves. I tell a story in the book about how badly, like, I don't think I've ever wanted anything as much as I wanted to be a soft spot to land when my kids needed to be needy. And when my daughter, I don't know if it was she was 3 when my son was born. So I don't know if it was like around that time. I remember this, and I don't remember anything. I like dissociated through most of my life, but I remember this. I can picture like the room. She had this moment of being needy. And then it was like, I blacked out. And when I came to, I had said something mean and vicious. And she was like in the corner crying. And I just was crushed. I'm like, what happened? What are we doing? You know? And when I did the intensive therapy on it, when I was a little girl, I was made to feel pretty unworthy. I was made to feel like a nuisance, like a burden, like I was annoying, like that version of me was not welcome and acceptable and lovable, right? And so I had to go back for the little Maggie inside and like hold up what happened to me with what I deserved. And that doesn't mean I need to villainize my mother. Like, I think what happened is that shame that I had pushed down, that I was still carrying about a needy version of me isn't lovable, got activated like a bomb inside, and I shut her down to protect her from what would have happened to me. Like a loving place, mom trying to protect her child, you know? But that version of me felt pretty unlovable, and so it's going to be hard/impossible for me to love my kid through that moment until I've resolved the shame within me, right? And so I can give my mother grace that, like, you know, that was terrible and it really impacted me. And she didn't have the resources, the tools to heal that stuff. And so that was a cycle that she perpetuated, right? I don't have to hate her. I don't have to, you know, hang her out to dry, character assassinate her. Like she just didn't have, there was no other way that could go. I get to break the cycle, and I did a lot of therapy. I think we also need to work, something that I've been working on the last couple of years is not taking the pushback personally, like not getting so offended by my kids. You know, I think that was one of the things that has been the hardest in trying to reconcile with my mother. We're estranged now, but like over time, that just taking everything personally and like being personally offended that I would choose something other than what she thought I should do. Right. And just trying so hard to let my kids be other people and like let them reveal who they are and let them reveal their opinions and let them, you know, choose to wear that outfit that isn't, you know, appropriate for the weather, and like letting them deal with the consequences of their actions. Like I do think we so often want to rescue them and protect them from dealing with the consequences of their own actions. That's actually codependency. Like that's not great, but it's, again, the air we've breathed. Like that's how you love a child, by kind of controlling and dominating them into submission to our great ideas as the parent, you know? So it's hard. Like in terms of how do you do that? Like, I think we've got to check the parts of us. I love internal family systems theory and parts work. Like there are parts of me that'll get really loud and with fears. Like if we don't fix this, there'll be, you know, the catastrophic fears around like they will never be successful in life if I allow them to do this right now. They'll think it's okay to treat people terribly. And we've got to kind of check those parts. Like they're not going to be an 11-year-old in a 25-year-old's body. Like they're going to be a 25-year-old with a fully developed brain. And like they're essentially, they're a caterpillar, and they're going to go through this metamorphosis, and they're going to be a whole different adult. Like they're going to be a butterfly when they're older. But I think we've just got to, like, anytime I notice that I am in that kind of power struggle with my kids where I want them to do things that I want to do, I think it's just about, again, getting curious. I don't need to beat myself up. I just need to be like, wow, a part of me really is worried that if they do it that way, or if they don't do it my way, that something bad will happen. So we give that part the mic and we say, what are you so afraid of? And that part might be like, oh, well, it'll be just like that one time in 6th grade when you didn't. And then, right, it often doesn't hold up when we bring it out into the light, but that part's kind of got you in a chokehold inside. You know, just getting curious. There are reasons why we have these like strong opinions and tendencies and even compulsions. Like that always makes sense.
When you think about yourself as a little good kid, right? Like, and not trying, and really breaking that cycle, which is what this book is about. What I hear you saying is that, you know, like there are times when you want to control, whether it's an outfit or a way someone does something. Do you try to filter like your thoughts or opinions so that, like, do you know what I mean? Because I think the ultimate good kid is going to be like, even if you don't say, I want you to wear that pink dress, not that blue dress. I feel like the ultimate good kid is has such spidey senses that they're like, oh, I can tell by the eyebrow raise that she wants me to wear the blue dress, and I'm going to wear the blue dress because that'll make my mom happy. Even if you don't say it out loud, like I'm like, oh gosh, like even if I keep my mouth shut, I feel like Sebastian is so in tune with me that he's just like, I know exactly what to do here to make everybody happy. And that's my job. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't want it to be his job because it's like, eventually you're so resentful of having to hold space for everybody else's feelings but your own.
Right. Do you ever tell him, I don't want that to feel like your job?
No, but I'll definitely like, I have noticed, and we did say like at the beginning of this year, like I did tell Chris, my husband, we were talking about the boys, and I was like, Tashin is 5 now. Like he will get very loud about what he wants, and Sebastian will just fold his cards. Like he's just like, you can have the car, you can have the truck, he can sit in that booster seat, I'll sit in the back. Like he can have that drink, I don't need it, here you go. Like he's constantly giving away to his loud little brother. And I was like, he's 5 now. He's not a toddler. He can't act that way anymore. He can't yell and scream, and we can't. And so we did say at the beginning of the year, like, we know that you have like bent over backwards to make it easy. And I like, don't want you to have to do that anymore. Like your brother is 5, like he's going into kindergarten next year. He has an even littler brother. Like it's not your job to make him happy, and your feelings matter too. So there've been times when like, he grabbed the last popsicle on Saturday, and it was like, grab your dessert after dinner kind of a thing. And Tashin lost it. And I was like, I'm sorry, buddy. Like he finished dinner. Like he grabbed his popsicle. It was the last one. Like that's a bummer. And Bash was like, well, I mean, I can get the cook. And I was like, no, like I had to step in for him and be like, you're not giving him your popsicle. It is uncomfortable to listen to him cry. And if you need to go in the garage and play with the Hot Wheels and have your popsicle out there to not hear him because it's affecting you, that's fine. He literally had his popsicle in the garage away from our family because Tashin was having like a version of a toddler meltdown. And I'm just like, we've perpetuated this because he knows if he acts that way, that Bash gives it up. And we have asked him for too many years to be like, just who cares? Just give it to him. There's so many other desserts. You know, it's like, I realize now that like, God, how many years have I done that and allowed him to be like the people-pleasing oldest?
That's okay. You got there, right? At the end of the day, it matters that you notice. When you notice, and sometimes it takes however many reps or however many years until we're able to see it and feel like we can do something about it, right? Like you don't need to beat yourself up about that. That's not helping anybody. Right. But you can be aware of the impact, right? And like clocking that, like there is this pattern that we're doing and like it's infecting my son this way. We can do that, but we can do that without thinking we're a bad mom. You're not a bad mom. You're trying really hard.
So now my question is, it's very easy for me to identify in our family, right? But that is totally separate and apart from me because, you know, like I can just deal with it because I always have. So like for you personally as a good kid and healing it for you before you can heal it in your own family, like what have you done to be able to like have these feelings without worrying about the impact or put yourself first or like not people please and make the decision that is in your best interest?
Okay. I have like the best thing I've ever done. And I was thinking about it for your son actually. Okay. So I think it was when my youngest was like 2. So my oldest would have been like 5. She's the mini me. I'm trying to let her be her own person, but she's just like me, in delightful ways though. Like, and not like, you'll get a dose of your medicine. She's delightful. And she clocks everything. Like she's so observant. You cannot get anything past her. Same. So I realized that I was like people pleasing and like not resting and just all the things that I wanted for her, I wasn't living it. So I'm like, okay, We love a gold star on the board. So in this, in our kitchen, we have a chalkboard painted on the wall just for like grocery list. I don't know. And I started putting a little heart with a smiley face on the board whenever I did something to take care of myself, just for me. Never imagined it would become anything bigger. I'm just like, I listened inside for what I needed. Whatever it was, I moved my body to deal with my stress. I went outside and got some vitamin D, whatever it was. Whenever I took care of myself, because I'm like, that makes my heart smile. And eventually she's like, what's that? And I was like, well, I put hearts on the board when I take care of myself. And she's like, can I do it? Yes. And then it's just become this thing that I have clients all over the world who do it. And I actually just released a workshop about this, about finally, like how to do it. So I call it the Heart Smile Board. And it's the most magical thing with kids. It's the only behavioral chart I would ever stand by. And because it changes what we're praising, right? We're praising them for listening inside. There are all these different heart smiles, and my kids have helped me like think of heart smiles like we have regular heart smile, which is like listening inside or checking in with yourself first, like considering what you need, checking your body, checking in, oh, I've had, my body's full. I'm going to stop eating this cupcake with 4 bites on the plate. Like, it's not about like performance. It's about your body said stop and you stopped, right? Or not having another cupcake because you're like, then I'm going to be on a roller coaster, right? I love teaching kids about blood sugar and like just helping them understand it from that standpoint that like you deserve to be able to focus at school. And if we have that, or maybe we just have some protein first to stabilize your blood sugar, right? Anyway.
First of all, I just have to I have to clap for that because as the good kid growing up who started reading Women's Health and Shape magazine, and then every diet book I could get my hands on all throughout the end of high school, all through college, and never could complete any of those perfectionistic PDF charts of the eat and do not eat lists and the like meals that you have to make while simultaneously I always think about simultaneously typing into every AIM chat that was on my computer and putting my right hand into the carton of goldfish from Costco that was this,
oh my gosh, the goldfish carton from Costco. Oh my gosh.
reading the book while typing to my friends while also eating goldfish. Like there was no world in which I was going to do a diet as a kid, and also as an adult to follow through on. That's just like that perfectionistic needle, right? The minute I understood blood sugar, I was like,
everything makes sense.
I have so much food freedom. My body can handle anything that I eat, and I can blunt that blood sugar curve. And I can, if I go on that roller coaster, I know exactly how to ground that ride. You know what I mean?
Well, and my kids get it. Like my youngest is 8. He's understood for 3 or 4 years now that he can have the, candy. We just need to have some protein and fat first. And then he will I'll be like, what does your blood sugar do? He's like, it'll do this instead of this. They get it. They understand. And I think when we ground our boundaries and because you deserve to feel good, because you deserve to be able to focus, your teacher's going to require you to focus today. I'm not sending you to school with your blood sugar about to crash. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to her. You deserve to be able to focus when you're expected to focus. It's beautiful. I know.
That's great language. Leave it to a trauma therapist to give me that kind of language. I like it. Okay. So you've got the heart and the smiley face when you tune into you. Well, and then like I said, it's just become this thing. My daughter had this moment in probably first grade where she had, I think it was kind of a bully-ish in her class that wouldn't let her use the swing. And so one day she did it and she goes, Mommy, that is such a child of a therapist. She's like, Mommy, that needs to be a new heart smile. Cause I could have made her mad and I did it anyway. I could have disappointed her, but I disappointed her instead of disappointing myself. So that's a super heart smile. And then my son one time was like, we need another heart smile when you do something you really don't want to do to take care of yourself, like take gross medicine, or you don't do something
that you really want to do to take care of yourself. Like you don't have another glass of wine, or you don't have another helping of that food that's going to make you sick, right? Like the kind of boundaries that you're setting for yourself. And so it's just become, I think we have 8 heart smiles now. There's an active heart smile for movement, for like regulating your body with movement. And it's just, there's a rest heart smile now. Anyway, it's so beautiful because what it does is it changes the way we talk to our kids. Like I would encourage everybody listening who has a child like this, that is, abandoning what they need to try to make other people happy. Like everything changes with a heart smile board, because now when they say, actually, I'm not okay with that, they get a heart smile on the board. And you say, thank you for listening inside for what you need. Thank you for telling me that doesn't feel good. Like, I'll be like, do you want a hug? And my kids will be like, no. And they'll be like, do I get a heart smile? I'm like, yeah, you do. Like, it's so beautiful. It's so important. It just changes things. Like we do need to notice the ways that we are like, like when we have a child who has an explosive, right, temper, or like does fight back. And I do want to, that's something we haven't actually talked about. There's an important nuance here. So good kids and the kids who end up being good kids, when we have loving, stable home, right? Outside of trauma, abuse, and neglect, a parent with substance use and abuse or extreme mental health kind of stuff. Temperament's a big part of this. And there are, when we can kind of pull studies and look at them together and zoom out, we do see patterns where when we think about fight, flight, fawn, freeze, the way our nervous system responds to stress and threat, that the good kid generally is going to tend naturally towards more of a fawn freeze. Fawn meaning appease and please, people please, parent please. And freeze is kind of the shutting down, not knowing what to do. And then our other kids that have the temper that we walk on eggshells around, if we're not careful, is more likely to have a fight flight. Like they just respond differently to stress, right? And so my goal with my daughter, who would be my good kid, is to not kill the fight response in her. Right? If I do what our parents and their parents before them did and dominate her into submission to me, her body's going to shut that fight response down to preserve the connection with me. That's what happened to us. We had access to fight and it turned it inward. That's why we are so viciously critical of ourselves. That's inward fight response. And so now, like, it's funny perceiving it this way. My son is the one that's got the temper. And like, there are times that I'm like, damn, look at that fight response. And it becomes something that I can like appreciate. Maybe not all the way in the moment, but like there's an awe that kind of comes in of like, okay, this is important. Like this is him fighting back. And I don't want him to not fight back. Like I want him to get his feelings out. And so I think that's a really important part of this. Like there's nothing wrong with either child. They're just built different.
Yeah. Well, what's so interesting is like, I see myself in Sebastian, and I used to feel like, oh geez, like this is Tashi's like, he's loud and proud. Like he's like ready to shiv someone for something. Like it's just a Hot Wheel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But and people who've listened to this podcast have seen me like mull this over multiple times with other like child therapist type of authors and people I've interviewed. But it's like I really have come to appreciate it because I'm like, gosh, like it's admirable. It's admirable that like how he feels, that he knows how to stand his ground, that he is unapologetic, even if it's uncomfortable for other people. And like, what a like gift that I could learn from as his mom in standing my ground or not, and I think that like, when you think about someone like on their deathbed, like no one is going to be like, I'm really upset that I stood my ground and that I like stood for something I believed in, or that I like, like had an opinion and I wasn't afraid to say it. Like it's beautiful. And like, I want that for Sebastian. Like I really want him to, because he's magic. Like, I just want him to stand his ground and be his like, yeah, like not worry about other people. Like, who cares? Like, I mean, I want him to care, but I don't want him to care, like he's going to be gracious and kind. Totally. I don't need to worry about it.
Well, and that I literally, and I talk about this in the book, I conceptualize healing for good kids, not just kids, but recovering good kids who are adults, as turning that fight response out, right? Like it really is kind of unearthing that fight response and letting it be outward, not just inward, right? And I think that is so powerful to conceptualize it like that, right? Because we want them to be able to stand up. The trick that we can fall into with good kids is we're so used to them being fine that sometimes when they'll like stub their toe and have a 2-hour meltdown, it's like, for God's sakes, like it, we think it's
with
this
you?
little,
Even worse. Here's the shame card.
well, and we're just not used to holding space for feelings for them, right? Like that's another part of it. And so I want you to remember this phrase: the thing is not the thing, right? The thing that sets them off at 9.8 is not the thing that this is actually about, right? They've been bottling all these things. Just like when I finally lose it because I get my sleeve caught in the door, it's not about the sleeve in the door. It's about every little thing. And so if we can just lean in and trust that, like right now, it's not about the toe. It's not about this, like, my son all the time, he'll have this thing at the surface that he's mad about. And if we can just stay curious and like trust that there's something here, that they're at a 9 out of 10, and this is stuff that needs to come out. And if we can just trust that he makes sense and that, and take it seriously from the standpoint of like, you're hurting, this feels really overwhelming for you right now. We will get to the moment at school today where this hard thing happened and he was, yelled at or got in trouble or whatever it was, the thing that's beneath the thing. Like the deepest layer is almost always shame. Like it's not even the anger, it's the I shouldn't be angry about this. And so when we can like allow them, like, tell me, it's safe. Like you can tell me all the things, or I'm learning how to be safe. So you can tell me all the things, which is where has been my journey, right? Like it's beautiful how we can allow our good kids to fall apart. Like we can condition them differently than we have. And we can learn to say, I want to know how things are going. We can have these circle backs. Like I really do have a circle back with my kids anytime there's like anything going on. Like a pattern where I'm losing my ish a lot, or everything seems to be setting them off, or we're, button heads with everything. Like it's just, I talk about circle backs in the book. They're so important. I actually call them relational colostrum because they really are like liquid gold. Think about the patterns we had when we were a child. Everything just got swept under the rug. We never talked about it. But like, imagine when you pull him aside and you say, perhaps, is there anything I'm doing that's making you feel like you need to make me happy? Or do you have any idea why it's so hard for you to say what you want? Because I really want your life to be also about what you need. I want you to be able to speak up. I'm not mad when you do that. Are you worried that that's going to upset me? Or are you worried that that's going to disappoint me? Have I gotten mad at that in the past and I'm not realizing it? Like, how can I help you? Then it becomes a thing that we're doing together,
I feel like good kids will respond so well to that just because they're like, wait a second, you noticed? Like, and it's interesting because I hadn't thought about it really like holistically until you had been on this show, is like for my mom's parents, like I think, and my dad's parents, I think it was like you said, physical violence of like, I'm going to hit them if they're doing something I don't want them to do. And like not abandonment, but like they had children. But I remember my dad telling stories that like a nanny or a caregiver raised him, and like his dad was like having friends over for a highball in, Larchmont, LA at like 5:00 at night for like happy hour. And he like signed himself up by himself for baseball when he was like in T-ball. Like it was like that kind of like parenting. And then if you think about like our parents, it was like, okay, well, I guess if we're not supposed to spank them anymore and some of us are still doing it, or like throwing the zest bar in their mouth, okay, now we're just going to be like, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. Like then it's like that shame and like withholding of love, passive aggressive behavior, like, which is so interesting is it's like they were, like you said, they were all they were all ways to have good, compliant, like, or just maybe just like kind, respectful children that you're proud to take out to a restaurant or like tell your friends about in your Christmas card, like whatever it is, you know? And so like for us, for our generation, like if you could wave a magic wand for parenting and still get that end result of kind and respectful, but autonomous, strong humans who know what they want and can don't feel bad, you know, giving themselves a heart smiley face. How do we get there? Like what one piece of advice would you give to parents? Obviously read your book because there's a lot of good advice and circle backs and all of that, but like, what would we do?
Yeah. I think stand by them is really the one thing. Just like learning how to be a parent who can be like, I don't agree with what happened and I'm not going to stand by that kind of behavior, right? But I'm always going to stand by you. And we have to kind of learn how to do that. We have to sometimes heal into a version of us that can do that. You know, I really did try, like part 1 is how good kids happen in the book. And part 2 is how to heal yourself and kind of the things that are going to need to be healed within you in order for you to pull this off, to break the cycle. And then part 3 is really, I paid attention for months to all of my clients and the words I was saying to them and really tried to distill it into like handbook style with them, you know, and just really give you, I have 10 good kid check engine lights in the book. And these are, again, they're not red flags. It's just like if we were driving and our check engine light came on, even if we could turn the light off, we would still have a problem deeper, right? The check engine light is not the issue. It's the way, you know, it's the indicator about the issue. And so I did a lot of work trying to figure out what are my top 10 things that I'm looking for in kids. You know, when I see them and they're, you know, straight A's, multiple sports, but then crushing, you know, shame on the inside, like what are the things? And it's things like debilitating fear of failure, right? Super over functioning, like only having 2 speeds, like either your plate is over full and you're going 150 miles an hour or you're crashing and burning and like not knowing how to toggle and find a midpoint, you know? I do talk through hidden self-soothing because we see that almost always with good kids. There's, you know, like attentional outlet where they're having to rub their finger to try to, you know, they're holding everything in. And it's like Dr. Gabor Mate talks about beach balls, like holding beach balls underwater. It like is exhausting, right? And to kind of pull that off, there's got to be outlets for that tension. And so we see kids, you know, who will fingernails or like chewing their cuticles, that was me, or like who are picking scabs or like working with their face or pulling hair, you know, rubbing places on their body raw. But I really tried to talk through that. But I think just learning how to be the parent that can say, we're good. Like you made a mistake, you messed up big. You're going to have to face the consequences. Like we don't need to be afraid of consequences. I try to avoid punishments, which to me is a consequence that's laced with shame and fear, right? So if we're trying to make the child feel afraid of what will happen, you know, because they did that, or if they do that again, or we're trying to make them feel ashamed of themselves, like that's more punishment territory. And I try to avoid that. I don't always pull that off, but I do circle back and repair when I do. But just learning how to hold them accountable, but separate out what happened from who they are. There's this fascinating research, and this was actually one of the things that kind of drove me to do all of this. There's this fascinating research. I heard Brene Brown, Queen Bee, share this somewhere about, and then I looked into it myself. They have done these longitudinal studies on kids where they come in 5th grade and they determine where they fall in terms of their self-talk, how they talk to themselves. Mm-hmm. Shame prone or guilt prone. There's a middle ground here, but for purposes of these studies, they're kind of just studying this or that. So shame prone looks like I'm bad. Mm-hmm. And guilt prone looks like I did something bad. Mm-hmm. And you can imagine how that plays out, right? That there's ripple effects. So they've come in 5th grade, established where kids fall. Then they come back in 12th grade. to see if anything's changed. The largest determining factor of whether kids fall shame prone or guilt prone, parenting style. It's how we talk to them in these moments. Are we coming in with a you're bad energy, or are we coming in with you did something bad energy?
Yeah.
Right. And the shame prone kids are like don't quote me on this number, but it's like 400% more likely to experience negative mental health outcomes. Because again, they're living with this thing happen and what does it mean about me? Right. So they're way more likely to experience anxiety, depression, self-harm, risky sexual behavior, substance use and abuse, like all the things. And the guilt-prone kids are inversely correlated with those outcomes. It's protective when they can separate out, this thing happened, but I am good inside.
Yeah.
That is so powerful.
Oof. It feels like it's, the separation, the stand by you and the separation just feels really important, really, really, really important given the outcome there. I mean, I will say, like, in the last couple of years, my most proud parenting moment, which I don't know, it just like stands out. I wouldn't say it's my most proud, but it just was like, whoa, like that felt awesome. Like I was so excited. And I think because I really want to be the parent, but I also want Sebastian to be okay telling me things. And so apparently, like, I was putting the baby to sleep and my phone was plugged in downstairs, and he is 7 now. So he like got the phone and he went on Amazon and he looked up spy drones. And he thought he purchased one. He added it to the cart, right? He didn't purchase it, but he added it to the cart. It's like a $64 like Amazon toy for kids. Luckily, he didn't have to hook to a phone to be a drone. So then I come downstairs and he's playing Legos, and Chris is in the playroom with them. And I'm like, Chris is like trying to ask him about something with baseball, and he is acting totally distracted. Like he keeps looking at me, and I'm like, my spidey senses are like, what is going on? Like you're not even putting sentences together for dad when he's like asking you about what happened at baseball or whatever. Like he couldn't even concentrate. So Chris was like, okay, I'm gonna go put Tashin to bed. And so he took Tashin, and Bash was acting kind of like skittish. And then he was like, Mom. And I was like, yeah. He's like, sunshine, which is, I was like, I will never get mad at you. I will never start yelling or freaking out. You can tell me whatever you need to tell me. If you say this word, then I will be calm. And he's like used it 2 times in his life since I told him. And I told him about it when he was in kindergarten, like early summer before kindergarten started. So he's like, sunshine. And I'm like, oh God. Okay, here we go. What's up? And he's like, remember how like I asked for my birthday for a spy drone, and then for Christmas and like never came? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, I was on your phone and I think I bought one. And I was like, where? He was like, on Amazon. And I was like, okay, well, I don't love that you were on my phone, because that's what I use for work. And it's like for an adult, and there's lots of stuff I don't want you to see, but let's go take a look. And I was like, well, what will we do if you bought the phone? And he was like, well, I have my piggy bank, and if it's okay that I keep it, I'll just pay you for it. And he's like solutioning the whole thing, you know? And I'm like, okay, all right. And what happens if we get it and it's like a 2-star and like, it's not a good one, and it's like breaks and you're bummed because you paid money? Should we check and like see if it's a good? Yeah, we should check. And I'm like, okay. And what if like we don't like it and we just want to return it? Should we return it? Like I was like going through all the ways that like it could be fixed or whatever. And he was like visibly calming down. I'm like, it's going to be fine. Like, thank you for telling me. And then we just like looked, and I was like, well, looks like you didn't buy it, buddy. You put it in the cart, which is like the step before you have to buy it. Thank you for telling me, because now we can take it out of the cart, and I'm not buying a drone unless if you'd like a drone and you'd like to spend your money on it, we can buy it, but you are going to pay me for it because it's not your birthday. It's not Christmas. And he was like, I do want to spend my money, and I've wanted it for like my birthday. His birthday's October. Wanted it for birthday, wanted it for Christmas. Okay, then we'll do it. Let's make sure it's good. So we looked at the reviews. We said like, oh, this is how you figure out if it's a good one or not. We buy it. And then we're like laying in bed. We like read the books. I put it and putting into bed. And he was just like, thank you for letting me tell you anything. And I was just like, oh my God, this is it. This is it right here. Like he went to bed. I ran downstairs and I was like, babe. And Chris was like cleaning up the garage. And I was like, this is the greatest night ever. Like, and he was like, you told him it was not okay for him to be buying stuff on your phone though, right? And I was like, I didn't need to tell him that.
Mm-hmm. He already knew.
He had so much shame and guilt from the behavior. Did you notice he couldn't even function when you were talking to him? Like, he's the kid you don't need to tell he's a bad kid and it was wrong. Like, he already knows all that. And he like couldn't conceptualize it. He's like, for a second, he's like, okay, I get it. Should I tell him? And I was like, no, like, it's done. Like, I'm now a safe space for him to like figure his problems out. Like, do you know how good that feels?
Right.
That was greatest. So I was like, that's like the best parenting moment. And I like had some really bad ones, but like, I was like, oh gosh, there's like light there. Like there's like I want to feel that way as a parent where I'm like, wow, I didn't like freak out. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I didn't tell him he's a bad kid. Like done that plenty of times. Don't get me wrong. Right. But like, I was like, wow, nothing felt better. It was so cool. And so
just allowing him to make a mistake without blowing up his self-worth over it. Like you said, he already knows. We don't need to like throw him into oncoming traffic in the shame grenade. Like we don't, like he already knows it was wrong. You know, it doesn't mean we can't come in with consequences, right? Like, and I think phones are so tricky because, I mean, that's a whole other conversation, but like it's digital heroin and we're like we're expecting a child, you know, who like up until a couple of years ago had to like wrestle my phone out of my hand at night, you know, like just it's hard for me as a fully grown person to have good boundaries. And so a lot of times parents will come in hard with the like, but I am disappointed in them. And I'm like, well, walk me through a scenario. And it's like, well, they were on their iPad or they were on their phone. Like, we got to put a passcode in, guys, if we don't want them to go on it. Like we're expecting a lot out of a child who doesn't have reliable impulse control, right? So I am so proud of you. That is a beautiful moment. Beautiful.
Well, I feel like it like when you talk about Stand By Me, I'm like that's how that feels better than separating, which is probably my set point, is to like just kind of rinse and repeat how I was raised. But I don't know, I don't want to say I got lucky that night, but I think it was that trigger for me. It was that word, like he used the word and I was like, oh God, we talked about this. This is important. Like, but if I could handle every situation, like he had said sunshine to me, I feel like I'd be a totally different parent.
Yeah, but you don't need to do this perfectly. You really don't. Like the mess ups are gold. The mess up, when we mess up royally as a parent, we're showing them we're human. We make mistakes. We show them how to love ourselves through that. We don't need to berate ourselves. Like there is so much gold in the mess ups too. Like when I yell and I lose it on my kids and I come back to repair, I'm not just teaching them how to repair and how to start that hard conversation. I'm teaching them that they deserve repair so that when they're in a relationship with someone who does some repair, they're like, hang on a second. Alarm bells, you owe me an apology, right? Like if we can't do this perfectly, but even if we could, I'm arguing, I don't know if that's good for them. Like they need to see messy human moments like happening in real time. They need to see us navigating them. They need to see us disagreeing with our partner and like not icing each other out and being vicious, right? Like they need all that there's gold in that too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you for writing this book for so many of us 80s, 90s babies who grew up in this, like in that set point of like disappointment of like, geez, like I have to perform for love unconsciously, you know, for a lot of our parents never wanted that to be the case. But for some of us good kids, it's kind of ingrained. So this is such an important book and so many good insights to like break that shame cycle and really like see if our kids' check engine lights are on and make sure that we're checking in on those good kids.
Right. I'm so glad that it's landing for you. And it just occurred to me while you were talking. I don't know where it is in the book, actually, off the top of my head. But there's a section where I go through the unspoken rules for good kids. That might be an interesting walkthrough with your son. Just kind of going through and being like, do you feel like any of these? There we go. Chapter 4. In the voice that says it's all your fault, the voice on shame. I talked through, I think it's 10 unspoken rules. And so that might be an interesting conversation point, just to be like, I'm just curious, do you ever feel like you have to follow these rules? And that would give you kind of an in to be like, I don't agree with that. So maybe try that. Let me know how it goes.
I'm going to jump into chapter 4 with Sebastian then.
Do it.
Maggie, thank you so much for being here and for sharing all your knowledge in the book and for helping all of us good kids, and for the parents of good kids to really like protect them in a way that allows for their feelings to be fully expressed and their wants and needs to be met. It's going to change their trajectory, and it's, I think, a really powerful book and message. So where can people grab the book Good Kids? Where can they follow along? Where can they learn more from you?
They can grab it anywhere. It's available everywhere worldwide. And they can find me at maggienick.com, or on the socials, I'm at Maggie with Perspectacles.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for having me. I love this conversation. I really appreciate you helping me find everybody that needs this book.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Be Well by Kelly LeVeque podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a review in your favorite podcast app and subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. We're also excited to share that full-length video episodes are now on YouTube and Spotify, so you can watch along as you listen. The best way to support me and the show is by sharing it with your friends and family. Your recommendations make all the difference. This is a Wellness Loud production produced by Drake Peterson. The video is recorded by Luke Rodriguez and edited by Jesse Trout. Sound mixing is by Mike Fry. See you next time.
The content of this show is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for individual medical or mental health advice and does not constitute a provider-patient relationship. As always, talk to your doctor or healthcare team first.